Master word list. Words starting with letter W. Waffle means speak equivocally about an issue. For example, when asked directly about the governor's involvement in the savings and loan scandal, the press secretary waffled, talking all around the issue. Waft means moved gently by wind or waves. For example, daydreaming, he gazed at the leaves that wafted past his window. Waggish means mischievous, humorous, tricky. For example, he was a prankster who, unfortunately, often overlooked the damage he could cause with his waggish tricks. Waif means homeless child or animal. For example, although he already had 8 cats, he could not resist adopting yet another feline waif. Waive means give up temporarily, yield. For example, I will waive my rights in this matter in order to expedite our reaching a proper decision. Wake means path of something that has gone before. For example, the wake of the swan gliding through the water glistened in the moonlight. Reporters and photographers converged on South Carolina in the wake of the hurricane that devastated much of the eastern seaboard. Wallow means roll in, indulge in. For example, the hippopotamus loves to wallow in the mud. Wane means having a pale or sickly color. For example, Suckling asked, "Why so pale and wan, fond lover?" Wane means decrease in size or strength. For example, when lit, does a wax candle wane? Wanton means unrestrained, willfully malicious. For example, pointing to the stack of bills, Sheldon criticized Sarah for her wanton expenditures. In response, Sarah accused Sheldon of making an unfounded, wanton attack. Warble means sing, babble. For example, every morning the birds warbled outside her window. Warrant means guarantee, assurance by seller. For example, the purchaser of this automobile is protected by the manufacturer's warranty that the company will replace any defective part for 5 years or 50,000 miles. Warrant means justify, authorize. For example, before the judge issues the injunction, you must convince her this action is warranted. Wary means very cautious. For example, the spies grew wary as they approached the sentry. Wastrel means profligate. For example, his neighbors denounced him as a wastrel who had dissipated his inheritance. Watershed means crucial dividing point. For example, the invention of the personal computer proved a historic watershed, for it opened the way to today's information age. Wax means increase, grow. For example, with proper handling, his fortunes waxed and he became rich. Waylay means ambush. For example, they agreed to waylay their victim as he passed through the dark alley going home. Wean means give up a cherished activity. For example, he decided he would wean himself away from eating junk food and stick to fruits and vegetables. Weather means endure the effects of weather. For example, he weathered the changes in his personal life with difficulty, as he had no one in whom to confide. Welter means turmoil, bewildering jumble. For example, the existing welter of overlapping federal and state programs cries out for immediate reform. Wheedle means cajole, coax, deceive by flattery. For example, she knows she can wheedle almost anything she wants from her father. Whelp means young wolf, dog, tiger. For example, this collie whelp won't do for breeding, but he'd make a fine pet. Whet means sharpen, stimulate. For example, the odors from the kitchen are whetting my appetite. I will be ravenous by the time the meal is served. Whiff means puff or gust, hint. For example, the slightest whiff of Old Spice cologne brought memories of George to her mind. Whimsical means capricious, fanciful. For example, in Mrs. Doubtfire, the hero is a playful, whimsical man who takes a notion to dress up as a woman so that he can look after his children, who are in the custody of his ex-wife. Whinny means neigh like a horse. For example, when he laughed through his nose, it sounded as if he whinnied. Whittle means pare, cut off bits. For example, as a present for Aunt Polly, Tom whittled some clothespins out of a chunk of wood. Willful means intentional, headstrong. For example, Donald had planned to kill his wife for months. Clearly, her death was a case of deliberate, willful murder. Wily means cunning, artful. For example, she is as wily as a fox in avoiding trouble. Wince means shrink back, flinch. For example, the screech of the chalk on the blackboard made her wince. Windfall means unexpected lucky event. For example, this huge tax refund is quite a windfall. Winnow means separate good parts from bad. For example, this test will winnow out the students who study from those who don't bother. Winsome means agreeable, gracious, engaging. For example, by her winsome manner, she made herself liked by everyone who met her. Wispy means thin, slight. For example, worried about preserving his few wispy tufts of hair, Walter carefully massaged his scalp and applied hair restorer every night. Wistful means vaguely longing, sadly thoughtful. For example, with a last wistful glance at the happy couples dancing in the hall, Sue headed back to her room to study for her exam. Withdrawn means introverted, remote. For example, rebuffed by his colleagues, the initially outgoing young researcher became increasingly withdrawn. Wither means shrivel, decay. For example, cut flowers are beautiful for a day, but all too soon they wither. Withhold means refuse to give, hold back. For example, the tenants decided to withhold a portion of the rent until the landlord kept his promise to renovate the building. Withstand means stand up against, successfully resist. For example, if you can withstand all the peer pressure in high school to cut classes and goof off, you should survive college just fine. Witless means foolish, idiotic. For example, if Beavis is a half-wit, then Butthead is totally witless. Witticism means witty saying, wisecrack. For example, I don't mean any criticism, but that last witticism totally hurt my feelings. Wizardry means sorcery, magic. For example, Merlin the magician amazed the knights with his wizardry. Woe means inconsolable grief, affliction, suffering. For example, pale and wan with grief, Wanda was bowed down beneath the burden of her woes. Worldly means not spiritual. For example, you must leave your worldly goods behind you when you go to meet your Maker. Wrath means anger, fury. For example, she turned to him, full of wrath, and said, "What makes you think I'll accept lower pay for this job than you get?" Wrench means pull, strain, twist. For example, she wrenched free of her attacker and landed a powerful kick to his kneecap. Writhe means twist in coils, contort in pain. For example, in Dances with Snakes, the snake dancer wriggled sinuously as her boa constrictor writhed around her torso. Wry means twisted, with a humorous twist. For example, we enjoy Dorothy Parker's verse for its wry wit. End of the word list with words starting with letter W.